Could you explain in that specifically the idea of behind the Ubiquitous Infoscape?
The Ubiquitous Infoscape actually means a very simple thing. It points out that during these years, these last few years, we have been consciously and unconsciously generating lots and lots of information. Each gesture of our daily lives, each thing that we do, each thing that we do at work, while shopping, while we are entertaining ourselves, while we are in our daily lives, while we are doing things at home, generates lots of information, whether we realize it or not. This information, of course, happens in many places, in many circumstances, in many contexts, in all of the aspects of our lives. And thus it generates an environment. It generates an environment which is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. When we turn a light on or off in a room, there's information about energy consumption. When we receive a phone call in a certain place, there's some information happening in this certain place. When we exchange some message or express our emotions on social network, there is an information, and also these informations are very peculiar because most of the times we cannot even understand how much information we generate. So much of this information environment, so the infoscape, so like a landscape, but which is made not from trees and buildings, but it's made of information. Most of the time, this infoscape, this informational landscape, is blocked from us because we don't even know what information we are generating, because there are algorithms, there are things with which phone operators or energy companies or credit companies and all of and many other forms of operators do with the things which we do and the information which we generate through them, that we don't know about. And so the Ubiquitous Infoscape is the landscape made from information, which of course is very related to the physical landscape, and through this we aim at reclaiming this part of the environment that we really don't know about, or that we really cannot fully use and access.
Awareness, responsibility, readability. You often mention these three words, pointing them out as fundamental concepts in your work. Could you illustrate why are they important and how to deal with them in digital era?
First of all, thank you for the question, which is really relevant to our work and also to us as human beings to understand why we do things. And I would like to share a little bit of a very interesting discussion we had during these days here in Città dell'Arte with Michelangelo Pistoletto, which gently came to see what was happening at Unidee. And exactly these three words were central in the discussion. For us, responsibility, awareness and readability are truly linked. And I would like to speak before about responsibility, which seems to be a very heavy word. In fact, responsibility is not, we don't conceive responsibility in terms of giving direction to people, but allowing and enabling people to understanding what is happening around them, so they can choose about what they want to do what the world is, or what question they want to ask themselves. In the digital area, we live in a peculiar moment because on one hand, we are surrounded by a lot of information, incredible source of information. On the other hand, there is a level of opacity in terms of possibility to understand what information are we producing and how these information are used. And so giving the responsibility we feel is to give tools to being able to perceive the complexity of the life of information we are immersed in, and it affects incredibly the awareness, so the possibility to be conscious about all these processes. Of course, is also linked to readability, because as soon as this incredible world of information becomes readable, we can use it we can have the possibility to use it whatever we want, for whatever purpose we want. Okay, so these are how, for me, these three words are linked, and why this is so important in the digital area.
During the module, you worked with very young artists to create the OSMA, Open Source Museum of Abandonment. Would you tell us something more about this project and the process you used to create it?
So, why OSMA, an open source museum, and on top of that, of abandonment, and Ubiquitous Infoscape, and Unidee, and Città dell'Arte? So, obviously, they are all interconnected, so they are all dependent and influencing one another. Because while we were speaking of the Ubiquitous Infoscape, so this landscape made of information, and while we were confronting with the fact that it constitutes an environment, but a peculiar environment, an environment made of information, which is only partially accessible. So imagine if you were in the physical environment and there were invisible walls, through which you could not go through, not making you possible to go through these walls. Okay, so we find ourselves in this strange situation. While we were thinking about all of these things, we were thinking of enormous questions, and doubts that are of which is full the history of the arts, of philosophy, themes like representation, inclusion, access, agibility, performance. Okay, and we were trying to find meaningful ways in which an artwork could use this ubiquitous infoscape, so this informational landscape, to empower people, so that people could not only know a little bit more about the world, so to become more aware and responsible, but also be empowered to represent themselves. So this is the first step. Then we were on a little tour around Città dell'Arte, and we went on the third floor where Pistoletto's paintings and artworks are, and we saw the mirror paintings, which are incredible, because in the mirror paintings you become part of the painting. No, you become part of the painting, and this is an incredible interaction. No, you don't even need computers or smartphones or whatever. No, the Kinect. No, you don't need anything to become interactive, to become immersed in this painting, because you find yourself in front of a mirror, or together with some object, some representation, etc., and you are transported instantly elsewhere, and you are in the painting. And so, actually, you also represent yourself in the painting, because you can make, you can start making gestures, you can start jumping, you can scream, so you can represent yourself. So we were, of course, greatly inspired by this, and so we said, why stop at the painting? Why stop at the painting? We could completely empower human beings if we give them tools to design the entire museum. And so this is how the two informations were combined. So we created this model, which is completely open source, so you can go on GitHub, github.com. So there is this code and document sharing service online, and you can search for the open source museum, and you will find the model, which is an open source model of the museum, which you can access and use and modify. And this model describes and allows you and gives you tool to create such a model, such a museum. It includes indications and tools on how you can create digital, physical, performance processes through which you can capture information, data, and knowledge about the emotions and the expressions and the self-representation of people, from social networks, from sensors, from urban performances, from a whole lot of different modalities. You can find there an open archive format. So how do you store all these memories, all these materials, all this information, all this knowledge? And we made an initial hypothesis of how this can happen. And of course, this also can be extended, producing yet another better archive format. So this is completely open source. And then there is a repository of representations. So the representations which we began and the people hopefully will contribute to, through which they extracted information, knowledge, etc., from the archive, and they they use it in their representation. So to make generative artworks, paintings, sculptures, performances, etc. And so all this is extendable, and whoever wants to build another museum can do so. Whoever wants to extend it can do so. And we have just started through a small exhibit which we did together with the students here, and it's been wonderful so far.